Hi everyone, it's James here from Pro Tools Expert, and I've got my grubby little mitts on the two Session Keys piano virtual instruments from E Instruments, the Grand Y and the Grand S. Shouldn't take you too long to work out what the Y and the S stand for. And these things sound amazing. As standalone sort of piano virtual instruments, they are incredibly detailed. They've really spent an awful lot of time and effort getting these things to sound quite incredible. And as we go through this review, you will get to hear them, of course. But there's a few more tricks in the tail, shall we say. Those of you who know me well enough will know that I am probably the world's worst pianist. So you'll also discover there is stuff in there for us non-piano players as well. However, let's just give you a quick look-see at the main interface and controls on the Session Keys Grand Y and Grand S instruments. This is the Grand Y. If I flick over into the Grand S, you will see it looks pretty similar. All the controls and functionality is exactly the same, just the sample set is totally different. Back over into the Grand Y. I would say, from my personally very limited experience of these so far, the Grand Y is much more of a pop sound, and the Grand S is more of your classical sound, much more kind of concerty, much more kind of concert grand sound, in my opinion. So let's just give you a quick look over what's going on. So we've got the main interface, and you can see down here two really cool little indicators, one with a lid up and one with no lid. This is what they call lid mode, and with the lid up, this is what they call concert mode. So you get all the kind of room ambiences, tonalities, extra things coming off the piano, a bit more grit, a bit more kind of room ambience, a bit more real life. In studio mode, you can see no lid, and this is much more set up to be a much more controlled kind of sound. Not so much of the room environment, not so many reflections, things like that in this particular sample set. However, in the piece that I'm going to play back shortly, we want a real piano sound. Our presets are available up here, and we can save these really, really easily using the plus and X buttons if we want to. In the tonality section, which is divided into four, we have harmonic, inharmonic, and the sympathetic resonances of the strings inside the instrument. We have an envelope control, attack and decay. Noise, so pedal noise, key noise, releases, things like that can all be controlled. And we have this one, a reverse volume option. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Effects section, none of these are on at the moment. We have an equalizer, stereo width control, compressor, built-in reverb and built-in delay. We can turn these on and off by just hitting those radio buttons. And down here we have our main piano controls, so we can see any pedal action that's going on. Over here we have our dynamic response section, so when it's fully up, the notes are going to have the maximum dynamic range they could possibly have, so between 0 and 127 on the dynamic range. As I wind this down, the quieter notes are going to be perceived to be getting louder because we're reducing the dynamic range. So if you've got a pop track, you're probably going to have that down there somewhere. In a classical track like this, you might want to have it up towards the upper end of things. We then have this section in the middle, which is called the pentamorph. Now, again, we'll talk a bit more about this in a minute, but it's a really neat way of going between different elements of tonality. Reversed, yes, that we saw it there. Aerial, which is a kind of combination of the two. Tonality, which is a way of getting reverse in. And the mechanics, so the actual noise of the piano, we can control that like that. Or we can actually grab hold of it and drag the thing around, which is very, very cool. But I want to leave it on acoustic because that's where pretty much we get a nice blend of the actual acoustic sound, a little bit of the mechanics, and none of the reverse sound at this time. So let's play this track back. You'll probably recognize it. I didn't play it. And what we'll do is we'll flick between studio mode and concert mode so you can hear the difference. And that's on the Grand Y. So let's play back. So that's grand Y. Now let's do the same with grand S. So that's the same piece played back with the Grand S model. I think both sound beautiful. And if I was a concert pianist or a classical pianist, or quite frankly, a pianist of any kind, I'd be more than happy to be playing back using these. In actual fact, I'm quite looking forward to using these on some up-and-coming tracks that I'm working on. So let's just go back to Grand Y, and let me show you the other trick that the Session Keys has. Down here, we have this thing called the Animator. And this is where, if you're not a concert pianist, it all gets very, very interesting. I'm going to turn the Animator on, and there's a few options down here. Now, you can see down here, I've got a certain amount of control over what's going to play back. Chord detection is very, very clever. It's a little bit like the kind of single-fingered chords feature you used to get on Yamaha and Casio keyboards. If I play a C, you can hear that I'm getting a basic C major chord. If I play a C and an E flat, the minor third of C, I'm now getting a C minor. If I add to that a B flat, I'm getting a C minor 7. So what this allows me to do is string together really nice, natural sounding chord progressions without actually having to be that wonderful a pianist. So let's have a go at that. I'm going to use this Pop Spirit preset style, and you can see here some of the ones available. So let's start with that one, start on the intro, and let's see what we end up with. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mod wheel to wind up the complexity, and you can see that's changing there. So if I go for a C again. Very, very cool sounding, and it makes it very, very easy for us non-piano players to put some cool stuff together. Let's try another one of these. I think that's amazing. I think it's going to be very, very useful for me in the studio. Certainly just getting ideas down to be able to pass on to other players. And if I need to do a piano part in a hurry, this thing's going to make it sound so much easier. There are hundreds of different styles to choose from, different tempos, different key signatures. I know full well this is one of those things that I'm going to find myself reaching for all the time. The thing that takes me the longest is to work out piano parts really slowly, and they never sound very natural. They never sound like they were really played by a pianist. This thing is going to help me out so much. So that's the Animator and the piano. But of course, we can link those two together. The Animator will stay on, and I'm going to go back to this intro style, even when I go over into the main piano controls. And this is where we can now look at using the pentamorph feature. So I'm going to hold down a chord. There's the mechanics. And you hear the reverse kicking in there if I want to turn that up a little bit. And of course, all these parameters are fully automatable and will just make your piano parts sound so much more incredible. So the last section we're going to look at is up here. This is called Smart Chord. I'm going to turn this on, and we're in the key of C major, and we can either control the chords of the key of C major from our actual piano keyboard, or from drum pads from something like a machine controller. Again, we've got a certain amount of control over that. So I haven't got a machine controller or drum pad hooked up right now. So what I'm going to do is just control Smart Chord using the keys. Still add. Very, very powerful, really, really cool way to get some very interesting piano parts into your compositions. Well, I very much hope you enjoyed that quick look at the new Session Keys Grand Y and Grand S virtual instruments from E Instruments. I've been James, and I hope to see you again soon for another review.